Hello, everyone. This is Katana Abbott, and I want to welcome you all to Smart Women Talk, where I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors, thought leaders, and change agents who are on that leading edge. So our topics include things like money, business, health, inspiration, and the metaphysical. Today we are interviewing, or I am interviewing, Joumana Kayrouz, and who is the only woman attorney to own a major personal injury law firm in the state of Michigan. We're going to be talking about the importance of mindset in creating wealth. So how to stay strong during times of adversity, finding the courage to take a leap of faith, and the importance of knowing what you stand for, what we like to call your why. So let me tell you just a little bit about Joumana. She is the founder and the owner of the Michigan Center for Personal Injury and Law Offices of Joumana Kayrouz, PLLC. Kayrouz's firm is now recognized as one of the most respected and largest personal injury law firms in Michigan. And Kayrouz is one of the most recognized attorneys in Michigan, with her picture having graced for several years the covers of hundreds of buses, billboards, and televisions. She has built her career around a combination of legal savvy, hard work, and sincere empathy for the financial, physical, and psychological needs of accident victims. So Joumana, I am so excited to have you here to talk about the importance of this idea of mindset in creating wealth. So welcome to Smart Women Talk.
Hello, Katana. Thank you very much for having me. It's really a pleasure. I want to begin by commending you for what you do for women particularly. You are really outstanding. You are filling, I can tell you, as a successful woman entrepreneur, that it's very lonely out there, that there is no community of women helping each other succeed. And you are filling, and what are we, 2021? Where are we in the finest country in the whole world, the United States? You're filling a huge gap, much, much needed. Your archive is really wonderful. I just want to commend you. And I mean every word from the bottom of my heart. I've been doing this for 20 some years, and I'll tell you, it's been extremely lonely, and it continues to be lonely. There aren't too many women I can look to, talk to, mastermind with, bounce ideas off. You're doing something phenomenal. And it's been what, 20 years that you've been doing this? You are a trailblazer.
Actually, 35 years. 35, it's amazing. I've been doing this part of it though. I was 20 years as a financial advisor. And before that, I cut my teeth going door to door, calling on mostly businessmen, right? And had some really strange incidents there as a young woman. But I left in 2007 and I came to do this work because I really wasn't positioned as a financial planner to really teach financial education. And so I came to do that. And so now I get to do both, work with a few people privately, but run this nonprofit. And it has been so rewarding. And now I've been joined by women and men from all over the world who are contributing experts like yourself to our program. It's pretty exciting.
Yes, thank you very much. I commend you again for what you do. And I am very, very happy. I have known you for how long now? About 15 years, give or take?
Yeah, for quite a long time. Yeah. And what
I
I
remember the first time I met you, I'm so sorry. You gave me your book.
I didn't know that.
Yes, you
I
did.
didn't remember. Oh, that's great.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and what I loved is I met you at your home. Well, I think we met one other time, but at your home, you were doing a fundraiser, and it was for one of our women politicians and in the community. And it was just so beautiful the way you brought us all together and everyone shared. And I thought, that's great. You were an advocate for women too. And
absolutely,
so, yeah.
Absolutely. And I long to have these gatherings again. We've been all deprived, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I'm pro women. I am not saying that. I mean, obviously, it boils down to capabilities and abilities. I am not saying that I would vote for a woman any day over a man. Absolutely not. But I am all for empowering women, and I am all for giving them the opportunities that men have traditionally been granted. So, by all means, I am pro women, and behind them all the way. I was very proud to stand behind the three women who ran for Michigan Supreme Court a few years back as well. And
Yes.
one of them is now the Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court,
Isn't that
Justice
amazing?
McCormack. Yeah,
Yeah.
out
Say
of
her
the
name
University.
again for our audience.
Justice McCormack.
Yeah.
McCormack. And she was a professor and I believe a provost at the University of Michigan Law School prior to becoming a justice of the Michigan Supreme Court, and now the Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme
It's
Court.
awesome. Yeah. And
Yeah,
the other person was Brenda Lawrence, who was the mayor of Southfield, and she is now our wonderful congresswoman in the
that's
US
right.
Congress.
That's right. And that was the fundraiser you were talking about. She was then, I believe, still mayor and running for US Congress. And she made it
Mhm.
from the first time. But let me tell you, Brenda Lawrence will be the first person to tell you that she has tried a lot of things and not succeeded at. But she did not give up. And somehow she found a formula for not turning what looks like rejection into something that will stop her from continuing. I mean, she ran for a whole bunch of things between being a mayor of the city of Southfield and becoming a congresswoman. And she did not succeed. And she kept pushing forward. And I know where that strength came from for her. Not that I want to speak for her, but I know she wouldn't mind. In fact, I know she would love if I shared that. Her faith came from her religion, from her Christian beliefs. She really believed that she was favored. She believes we all are in favor, as a matter of fact. So no one is superior to the other. But you just have to remember that, and you have to ask for it, and you have to believe it. And believing is knowing it's coming before you see it. She always said to me repeatedly that this is where she gets her strength from. This is where she got her strength from. And Brenda Lawrence is a Black woman. She is not a lawyer. I don't believe she is a college graduate. I think that she started working for the Southfield Post Office. And her foray into the public arena, into the political world and the world of public service started as a parent, as a concerned parent in her kids' schools or in her daughter's school. I think she has only one daughter. And this is how she made tippy toes into public service. And this is how it is for everything you do, by the way. You don't wake up one day and you transform. Even a caterpillar, does not transform overnight into a beautiful butterfly. It suffers pain, isolation, and then it slowly transforms. And the same was for her. She, little by little, entered into public service. Little by little, started learning the process, starting, getting interested. And that journey of 1,000 steps that got her now into the Capitol and who knows where from here started with her being a concerned parent. Again, she did not have, a high college degree or anything like that. She worked in the post office, and then she became mayor. And then she got the attention of some other people. At some point, she was asked to run in addition to the governor who was then running as a lieutenant governor, and that did not work, and a whole bunch of other things. And look where she is now.
Right.
Her story exemplifies two things. I didn't even know I was going to talk about her today, but she did mention it exemplifies faith, which prevents you from taking rejection as the last step, recovering from rejection. And it also exemplifies that a lot of success stories, so to speak, do not happen overnight. That person, little by little, and then it becomes better and becomes bigger. And then one day they've arrived, so to speak. To the world, they've arrived, but to them, they've been working on it for years and years. It reminds me of Tiger Woods. Again, I did not know I was going to talk about this. Tiger Woods, who it seems that overnight he reached international notoriety, and he was on Oprah, and it was either him or his father who said, well, he's an overnight success, all right, but he's been preparing from this since age 5.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a path, it's a journey. And I believe that all the experiences we have, good and bad, along our journey are preparing us for our ultimate purpose in life. And it's
1
funny.
million percent. 1 million
Yes, you
percent.
agree?
1 million percent. In fact, it's the mistakes. I know it's a cliche, but it is very true. You often learn from, what doesn't happen to you, from the mistakes, from the disappointments, from the rejection. That's how you become hardy, because to become who you want to be, it requires a certain strength of character. You can't, click your fingers and you're that. You have to train. You go to a marathon, again, another cliche. You're training for days, and otherwise you can't lift the 300-pound weight if you haven't done the 5 pounds, then the 10 pounds, then the 30 pounds, then the 40 pounds. So why would it be any different in life? Why would we expect to become congresswoman or president or CEO of a major company if we haven't had the preparation? And it's been said, if you don't learn how to work under leadership, you cannot work for leadership. You have to learn to work under leadership. You have to learn the little things, and nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted whatsoever.
Well, one of the things we love for our guests to do, Joumana, is tell us a little bit about their story. And so I wanted to talk to you, is it true you were growing up in Beirut during a civil war? And I'm wondering if that was really what you were living in, what was that experience? And then, how did that affect who you are today and the fact that you're here in this country? Like, how has that experience affected you?
May I begin by saying that this is the most beautiful country in the world. This is the country, and these are not empty words, Katana. This is the country where it does not matter who you are. It does not matter how much money you have. It does not matter if you're not a Kennedy or an Obama or a Clinton or a Trump or whatever you want. It does not really matter. Yeah, it may give you a little bit of an edge, but you really have to do the work, and you have to may open a door here, but the door won't stay open if you don't prove yourself. This is the country where really the American dream happens, where you can start from scratch, and with enough persistence, self-study, self-reflection, throwing yourself in the fire, learning, adjusting, a whole bunch of skills in addition to faith, you will get there. It's just a question of time. You will get there. It's not a question of if you will get there. It's the question of when you will get there. This person who's sitting across from you is the true embodiment of, the American dream. My then husband, now ex-husband, back in 1986, and I came to study on the East Coast. He was accepted at Yale New Haven Hospital and some other, MIT, Harvard, so forth. So, and I accompanied him, and we came with $1,000. So,
and you were only 22?
I was 22 and 1 week, going on 14. Going on 14, because I came from a very conservative family. I grew up in the war. The civil war erupted in Lebanon the day I turned 11, and that was in 1974. So between age 11 and age 22, I lived in Lebanon. A chunk, a sizable majority of that, this is something the American listener will not be able to relate to. A big chunk of those 11 years were spent underground, hiding in what you call bunkers because of the war. So every building in Beirut, where I was born, had an underground, call it a basement, but it's completely underground, that we would all go down to. Our neighbors from the first floor and the second floor and the third floor and the 8th floor, everybody would run down the stairs and go hide in bunkers because we were being bombarded. Doesn't matter who right now, every country that could had a hand in Lebanon. And, 11 years on and off of that. In 11 years, I missed several years of studying not just myself and other children my age. We could not go to school. So we could not, finish, say, a whole year of 7th grade. And so it was a difficult time, but if I told you that I was a little bit oblivious, my parents made me feel safe. I sensed a feeling of community because it wasn't just me. It was not just my family. It was my neighbors. It was other people in my neighborhood. It was the city, next to Beirut. It was the town north of Beirut. And what really helped is I did not know any one person in my family and in my extended friends who was killed as a result of the war. On the other hand, I had only one friend, and that friend who remains very, very special to me to this day, as a result of a bomb landing in her home, she and her sister suffered 3rd-degree burns. And you should see these two beautiful young women. They became physicians in my home country, Lebanon. They do a lot of good. They are angels. They are beautiful. They are forgiving. They are not bitter. They stood up, shook it off. From what I remember and from what I have continued to see, they never took on that, victim mentality. They went on to become doctors. They are serving their communities. This is the only example where the war touched me pretty close, the Civil War.
Through these girls.
Through these girls. Now, how did that, affect me? Lebanon is a developing country. It's a developing democracy. And it's a far cry from being a democracy. So when I came to the United States, this 22-year-old girl's eyes were opened to the freedoms here, to the freedom of expression, to the freedom of opinion, to the fact that the individual and the community can make changes. I remember when I was finishing my undergraduate studies in Connecticut, the Yale University campus was abuzz with protests because Yale University was the only Ivy League school that did not pay taxes to the city, to the poor city of New Haven, and all of the students were protesting. And then later on, I witnessed, I don't know if I were a student by then there, but I witnessed students protesting and conversations happening about what was happening on the Hill. That was during the Anita Hill congressional hearings, when one of the justices was to be sworn as a United States Supreme Court judge, and Anita Hill testified before Congress about allegations of sexual harassment. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you know that, one of the very things I'm very proud of is about a year and a half ago, I was sworn in before the United States Supreme Court Justice in Washington, D.C. And that very same justice was one of those who was present, and I was sworn in by Chief Justice Roberts, but that's beside the point. I never thought when I was watching,
isn't that just so amazing? Like, you never could have dreamed it.
When I say I'm the American dream, please believe me. When I say it was not supposed to be that, when I say I was not slated to be sworn in front of the United States Supreme Court, to create a beautiful business out of $1,000 in this country, I'm not tapping myself. I'm just saying it's not believable. But I know why. I know why. It's this guy upstairs, and it's me doing what I need to do. Failing most of the time, but then getting up, shaking off, feeling sorry for myself, feeling rejection, then talking myself out of it and continuing. And that's it.
So I want to go back to this because I think you mentioned something about watching these protesters, because you were going to school for medical to become a doctor.
In Lebanon, I was pre-medical student. And when I came to the United States, the plan was to become a doctor. My then husband was a doctor. And when I came here, yes, and going back to this point that I started, when I came to the United States and I saw how powerful individuals are,
Mhm.
I could not believe it because in my home country, I did not see that.
Yeah.
I did not see that. So, and I saw how powerful lawyers can be, how powerful advocates people can be, whether lawyers or advocacy groups, or that was new to my fresh eyes.
Right.
And I've always been told you should be a lawyer anyhow. And, I think maybe then I made full circle to what my calling was to be.
Wow. So
Yes,
then you
very
came,
inspired by those events.
yeah, and you came to Detroit to Wayne State Law School.
Yes, and then I did a master's at Yale University in ethics, and then I relocated to Michigan. At the time, I have two daughters, and at the time, my youngest daughter was only 1 year old, 1 year
Mm.
of age. So I wanted to be in a 4-year program and spend some time with her. And Wayne State University is law school, is an outstanding university,
Oh, yeah.
extremely tough to get into. They have one of the highest bar pass rate in the state of Michigan, actually. And I was able to do a 4-year program, which was a little bit easier on me than if I were to do a 3-year program.
Right. Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
So when you got your first job as an attorney, were there other women there? What did you learn? I just want to understand this first experience. Like, what did you learn there? And then ultimately, why did you leave? So,
Well, my very
'cause I
first
mean,
job,
because some people go to a firm and they'll stay there forever, right? And you were there how many? So anyway, I want to hear your story about that.
let me tell you very quickly, I was very blessed to join a national law firm, a very prestigious law firm by the name of Philo Atkinson. Harry Philo, Linda Atkinson, two giants. Harry Philo he's considered the father of personal injury, the father of tort liability, known throughout the country. God rest his soul. He's passed many years now. And Linda Atkinson, who was his partner as well, a very powerful woman and a very, very successful woman. And last I checked, still practices. So I did join that law firm, a national law firm. Sadly, after a little while, the firm, broke up because Harry Philo retired and things changed. And I felt that it was time for me to make a change. But Linda Atkinson, a very, very powerful woman attorney, and there were other women in the firm as well. And Harry Philo, a true fighter, a true warrior. Personal injury can be a very dirty business because there is a lot of money in it. And this man never thought this way, never lived his life this way. He always thought that the true purpose of filing lawsuits, tort liability, is not really money, is not really, that's not what it ought to be. It's not really financial compensation. First and foremost, it should be the prevention of injury. In other words, every time you file a lawsuit, hopefully, with this little slap on the hand, you're improving the system so that this injury doesn't happen to somebody else again. Let's say, a defective car and a lawsuit is filed. Well, that's a financial slap to the manufacturer of the car so that they improve their product so that the likelihood of somebody being injured in the future is less and less and less. He always thought, everybody, myself included, the true purpose of tort liability, meaning filing lawsuits, really is the prevention of injury. But when that fails, then money compensation. So been very blessed to join that firm. It was a short stint, but here 20 some years later, I'm still talking about it.
And
I owe a debt of gratitude.
And a very powerful female role model for you.
Linda Atkinson was, yes.
I
And she
mean,
is
that
powerful.
had to have a positive effect for you to see her and what she was able to do.
Yes, my mother too. Although my mother did not have a college education, but she was a very, very she still is a very, very powerful woman, a very strong woman. That she has and continues to be a very strong role model for me.
And where is your mother now?
in Beirut, Lebanon.
He's still
She just
there. Oh my.
celebrated. We've been blessed to have just celebrated on May 15 her 89, virtually obviously, her 89th birthday party. So we pray for the Lord to
Wow.
grant us another 1 year so that my brothers from Europe and I will go 1 year from now and celebrate her 90th. Wouldn't that be
Yes.
wonderful?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you know, and it is so amazing that people are living so long.
Yes. If you take good care of yourself, and with the advent of, medicine, you can live long. The key, if you ask me, is what kind of quality of life. It's
Mhm.
not just about having breath. If your quality of your life is not terribly good, I think you are suffering.
Right. And I hope we can come to, and I'll leave it there, some kind of wonderful options for people. You know, I don't ever want to be in that kind of a state. You know, I've gone to my attorney and created documents to protect me from being kept alive artificially and stuff. I've seen what happens when people don't have proper paperwork. So I will not let that happen to me. And I have my buy-in from my whole family, so they have to cooperate.
And you're touching upon something extremely important. Whether you know it or not, there are laws in effect that will be executed unless you have told the world otherwise. I mean, a lot of people don't have their will, and they think that everything will be left to their family, or in the manner that well, you know what, in the state of Michigan, for example, we live in a state of intestate succession. You have a will, you just don't know. The state has a will written for you,
Yes.
unless you go to a lawyer and you create a document that is more aligned with what your wishes are. So to your point, there are a lot of laws about this and that. You must consult with an attorney about your future, about your medical future, about your abilities, powers of attorney, about what the laws that will be in default if you don't do anything about it. If you're okay with the laws in default, then that's fine. But chances are you're not going to be okay with everything. Then be empowered and, create the documents needed, like you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, there's help for everybody too, because there are organizations for people that, you know, can't hire an attorney. You know, there is help for people, but getting the basic will and the power of attorney is so important too. So you can name who you want to make medical decisions and financial decisions for you.
Yes, and when we say a basic will or a will, I mean, most lawyers will advise you a will is not what you really want. You want to create a trust because a will becomes public, and there will be a lot of legal fees after you're passing to quote unquote probate that will.
Right.
But we're speaking generally. You and I
Right.
are speaking generally right now. We call this umbrella called will, really letting the world know how you want to dispense of your affairs and whom and to what and in what manner after your passing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to come back to your story because it is so interesting. So here you have this fantastic job, the firm closes. And so is that when you opened your firm?
The firm does not close. The firm goes in another transition, and I feel that this is
Okay.
a time for me to move on. It's interestingly enough, the changes with the firm coincided with changing in my life, where sadly I had to face the end of my marriage, and it kind of felt like a very osé time. It felt to me like this is the time to take leaps. This is the time to be courageous. And 50% was courage and 50% was ignorance. And sometimes ignorance is bliss, because when you don't really sit, so it's good to think things through. And then if you think things through to the point that you become so disabled that you cannot take the first step, it's become self-sabotage. So looking back at my life, I've taken so many steps without really doing the proper homework, without even thinking enough about it, much less overthinking it. But looking back, it because I was pretty naive about it, I made the jump without holding back. And it turned out to my advantage. Of course, I made mistakes. I made mistakes every hour, by the hour, believe me. But sometimes, like they say, ignorance is bliss to a certain extent.
So you opened your firm on your own, right? And I think I read somewhere where you had a phone, a fax machine, a desk,
That's it.
right? And you ended up winning a pretty, was it a sizable case, like a really big case or something? And then that gave you a different mindset. I'm trying to, because I've read stories, I've heard things, and I just wanted to know
So you want
what
to know,
happened. There was something that happened, that there was this transition, and I'm curious what happened with your life there.
so that huge case you're talking about
Yeah.
is a $50,000 settlement. Let
Okay.
me explain. First of all, again, there is no one moment where there is you and then there is the new you. There is no one moment where you are, technology style, or I don't know what these sci-fi movies style, you are transmuted from this 3D reality to the new you. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. It did not work for me like that. And I surmise it doesn't work for anybody like that. Let me tell you why. Because you need to build the skills along the way. You need to build all the skills you need and hone these skills so that when you get that ultimate position, whatever it is, it was a natural transition and you'll be able to keep it because you didn't steal it, you didn't buy it, you worked yourself to it. So that very first $50,000 settlement, I mean, it was a case that was turned down by another prominent firm in town. And this gentleman of Middle Eastern descent called me. Long story short, I just started my firm. I had no clients. I had all the time in the world. So I discovered that they rushed into turning him down, that there was really coverage, that his injury far exceeded the policy, and the policy was only $50,000. And I could not believe at the time that, I just settled in my hands $50,000. Remember, I started the firm from the ground up. I had no money put aside. I had no pocket of money, neither for advertising, nor for a secretary, nor for anything. I didn't even know where my first client would be coming from. And this is where, like, if I were thinking about it now, I'll do a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan, and I'll put money aside and, I will, look ahead. But at the time, ignorance was bliss. So I just jumped into it. My marriage was ending and I jumped into it. And this was the first time I realized that really I can make things happen. Really, I am powerful. And I'm telling you that story to tell you that I didn't, first of all, I haven't arrived. Let me just say it. I have not arrived. I have not arrived. I am a work in progress. Believe you me, I am a work in progress. But let me just tell you, between today and then, 20 years ago, that gave me the confidence. So sometimes your mini successes are what gives you just enough oxygen to take the next step. And then maybe you won't do well with the next step, but then you try again. And then on the third step, you get another mini success. And every time you get a little mini success, your image of yourself grows a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. The cumulative experiences is really what gets you to become. So you see, it doesn't happen in one moment. It really happens over many months and many years.
Right.
Many years. That is why if you ask me today, and I've been asked this question so many times, when? There is no when. It's not a when. That's not how it worked for me. And I don't think that's how it worked. It works for anybody else. I just remembered a very famous Hollywood actor who had his break, Dustin Hoffman. He was being interviewed and he had his break in one of these huge movies. I don't remember the movie. And they said, wow, you're an overnight success. The interviewer said, wow, you're an overnight success. And he responded, I'm an overnight success, all right. It just took me 12 years to get there. So the world sees you when the billboards come up, when the whatever, but all the work you've been doing, all the work that nobody saw and nobody could see, and it wasn't on world stage or public stage, is what got you to that point.
Joumana, I'm even thinking, how many women are there that are out there, and maybe they really haven't figured out who they are or what they want to do. They haven't really had the success. They're about 50 years old, because those are the women I work with. They're at midlife. They're, looking at this last half, or sometimes they're 60 and up and it's their last third. And so, but it just hasn't happened for them. And what I've been writing about recently, and I've been looking up stories, is it's fine, because it may be that the second half of your life is going to be when everything all comes together, because now you finally have the wisdom and the connections and maybe the money and all the other things. And earlier you weren't prepared for it. And we just have to trust that this is what's going on, and find the support so you can keep going and be told, because a lot of people don't have someone they're telling them to move forward. And, that's why I created Smart Women's Empowerment, because I couldn't do what I do when I was a financial advisor. I got paid and I had so much time, to meet with the client, gather the data, do the financial plan, but I really didn't have time to do what I do here, which is, to educate and to really help people take a whole new path. So that happened at midlife. I was 47 when I took that switch. So can you talk a little bit about that?
My opinion on that, it's never late until you take your last breath. Nothing is wasted. Everything is what we call making dirt. Everything is needed. But if you give up on yourself, that's different. Then you're not going to see it to fruition. There is no telling how long you're going to live. Just because you're in your 50s or in your 60s does not mean you have less years than those who are in their 20s or in their 30s. Only the Lord knows that. If the history is full, I say to these women, you cannot give up, because if you give up, then you may have gotten towards the end of the tunnel without you knowing it, and then given up at the last second, half an inch before you discover the gold. And history is full of people who became extremely successful by any standards, left their mark on history, made a lot of money, whatever you want to call it, at a much more advanced age. I'm thinking right now, I just read about, the designer, Carolina Herrera. There was no Carolina Herrera until, I believe, her late 40s. Carolina Herrera, I think, was, if I'm not mistaken, a housewife. And she decided to put that talent that she had to work, rather by a lot of other people's standards, very, very late in life. So Carolina Herrera became the designer, Carolina Herrera, very late in life. There are a lot of examples of people who, in the so-called last chapter of their life, made an astounding, contribution. But I don't think you're gonna see that for yourself if you don't keep hoping, if you don't keep having faith. I don't think you're going to see that. So you have a personal responsibility. And let me also say, just like, your material is all over the internet for anyone who wishes to tap into it, and it's free advice. We live in an era where it's all free. So all these women who are feeling, lonely and unsupported, try as best you can to find people in your life to support you, especially women, and look to the internet, look to YouTube, look to podcasts for empowerment, because there is a lot in there. You have coaches available to you free of charge 24/7. Try to learn from them. I also feel inspired to tell your female listeners, especially those who feel like, how can they start from nothing? I started from $1,000. Lisa Nichols, she is a fabulous, you know her, she's a fabulous motivational speaker who went from welfare to having her company now publicly traded. From welfare, nobody gave her any penny. She would save money and put it into what she called, it was like $10 at a time, $15 at a time. It was her dream, funding my dream. She called it funding my dream. And, people at the bank would get these checks In those days, 20 years ago, you wouldn't deposit a check, they'll get these checks in the mail and who's this lady of funding my dreams? And from putting $5, $10, she wouldn't do her nails anymore. She wouldn't go to the restaurant. She skipped on everything, and every penny she saved, she put it in her funding her dream. And one day her funding her dream turned into a 70,000 investment. She went to the bank and she started something magnificent with it. So this is Lisa Nichols for you. From welfare, and
Right.
she is not white, she is Black. So she is a woman, first whammy, she is Black, second whammy, and her company from welfare to publicly traded.
Isn't that fantastic? Yeah, and the guest that I interviewed last week, Sandy Forster, she's from Australia, and her theme was too going from welfare to millionaire. And
Yes.
she didn't have the knowledge of how to do these things she did, but she had the guts to do it. And then she partnered with people,
Yes.
and she stepped out of her comfort zone. She, wrote a book and, contacted Linda Byrne for The Secret, the movie, The Secret?
Rhonda Byrne.
Rhonda Byrne. Okay. She she just wrote an email telling them that she saw the trailer and the movie's going to be fabulous. And the next thing you know, she gets an email back from Rhonda and they have a conversation and she sends her book and she says, "Oh, did you write this after seeing it?" "No, I already then you understand this stuff." And so through this conversation, she got to bring the movie to Australia and launch it there. And she ended up making a couple $1 million doing
Wow.
it.
Wow.
But how does that happen? Because she didn't think it through. She says it's the law of attraction, the law of intention, putting it out there and waiting to see what the universe brings back to you.
Sure. And
not being afraid when it comes.
Sure, there is that on the spiritual level, and then on the 3D level, there is knowing you may be rejected and still doing it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get rejected, then you've made headway. And if you got rejected and you get past the rejection is a very painful thing, to myself included, by the way. Let me just say that. If you get beyond it, you've become hardier and become easier the next time. So this woman, somehow, either through ignorance or who knows, had the guts to reach out to Rhonda Byrne, an international, and God bless Rhonda for responding and look, we're talking about it.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it really is. And that movie affected so many people.
Yes.
So when I want to ask you, so when you opened your firm, were you scared, or was there someone there backing you and holding your hand, or did you just go do this?
I did not feel scared because I was so ignorant, but I just did not have
so perfect.
Seriously, but I did not have a roadmap. And there were moments where I did not know where the next case will come from, so, I don't want to offend anybody, but I want to share my story.
Yeah.
I am a Christian sinner from head to toe, but I have very strong Christian beliefs. And I'm very devoted to one of our Lebanese patron saints, Saint Charbel. So I had his icon in my office. And every time I felt uncertain or weak, I'd look at him and say, "You figure it out for me. I don't know." This is called surrender. When you're doing everything you can with the limited understanding you have, and then you look to a higher power. So I'd look at them and say, "You help me today. You help me figure this out." It's been a very long road and a very painful road and a very lonely road, and a road full of obstacles, of rejection, of loneliness. To build my firm, I used to work 7 days a week and then 6 days a week. And if I ever made the mistake of going to one of my male colleagues for advice, they won't give it to me. They won't give it to me either because they didn't want to give it to me or because they couldn't articulate it. So I received very, very little advice. And when I was a lawyer, by the way, before I went on my own, and in the early stage of being on my own, I typically be the youngest lawyer maybe in a team of lawyers on a certain case. And I was often marginalized. I'd walk into, a facilitation with other lawyers. And here comes this blonde woman with an accent and young. I mean, now I'm 57, but at the time I was 35. So, and dresses a little bit differently and all of that. And I cannot tell you how often I felt, maybe they meant it, maybe they did not, maybe it was subconscious, maybe I was sensitive, but I felt marginalized. I felt minimalized. Every time I'd open my mouth to say something, they wouldn't hear me. They wouldn't acknowledge it. I felt it fell on deaf ears. I remember one time I went to court and there was a judge in Wayne County. It was the last step on a case, approving a settlement for a deceased who had, I don't know, 7, 8 children who came out of nowhere wanting to share in the settlement. So the law firm sent me because it was a low risk case and they did not want to bother with it. So they sent the young lawyer in there. And I stood there and, the judge said, how would you feel about, appointing a GAL? And the lawyer next to me, dressed in a suit, I have no objection, Your Honor. And the lawyer next to him, I have no objection, Your Honor. And the lawyer, I have no objection. And then when it came to my turn, I'm sorry, Judge, I don't know what a GAL is. And the whole courtroom burst out laughing. I was not taught in law school what a GAL is. I was taught in law school what a guardian ad litem is in one of my estate planning classes, not even a requisite. I forgot about it, standing on my feet there. It's one of my first visits to court. I couldn't be fast enough. I was nervous. I did not know, and everybody burst out laughing. It was a very humiliating experience. I remember another time when I appeared before a judge who is about to retire. And that judge looked at me. I approached the bench, putting something on the record. I don't remember. And he goes, "Are you a lawyer?" I said, "Yes, Your Honor." He goes, "What's your P number? What's your barcode number?" And I felt so humiliated. He could not believe I was a lawyer.
How
And
rude.
I remember looking at him saying, "I'm going to make sure one day you remember my face." Sometimes when you are humiliated and you feel like humiliation in a big way, sometimes it's a huge fire under you.
But you got everyone, I mean, I wanted to ask you about the billboards because you are very famous in Detroit because everyone knows who you are. I just mentioned to someone else who had been in Detroit and I mentioned, and she knew who you were because of the billboard. She was coming down to a concert. So that had to be something, so different, especially a beautiful woman to put herself there because you knew that was your audience. I have a feeling that you wanted them to know they could come to you, but you put not just a couple, it ended up being, you told me 100, over 100, 150 of this. And then I want you to say, how did you do that? And then there must have been pushback from people.
So I was literally inspired to put them. And I remember like some people telling me, "Oh, you are so gutsy to put them." I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, what do you mean?" I did not feel that it took courage. I needed to build my brand and I wanted people to know. I felt an inspiration. And at some point, they started from one billboard to over 100 and actually over 175 between billboards and the bulletins, they're called bulletins, the smaller ones, and my picture on over 700 buses. That was the largest outdoor contract ever signed by outdoor, the billboard company. They even issued a press release. They said even Coke did not ever advertise. It was to this day, I believe it is the largest outdoor media contract. This girl who came with $1,000. So I got the inspiration. Looking back, I will tell you though, have you heard that thing like too much of a good thing? Too much of a good thing.
Yes, yes.
I think it was overkill. Again, sometimes you think if it's working, then if you do more of, it's going to work more. And it takes distance sometimes and wisdom to step back and say, that may have been a bit of an overkill. So now I'm mindful of the fact that I don't want to violate people's privacy and be in their face every which way. the mature me, the me who has evolved, if we're given the choice right now to throw another 700 buses and 200 billboards, will not do that, because I don't want to be in people's faces to this extent. I feel that I will be violating a little bit their space, and I don't need to do that. Like I do not want somebody to violate my space.
But it worked for you at the time. And it was a
It,
gutsy
it
thing
worked
for a
and
single
continues.
woman to do who came here, from Beirut with $1,000. And it
It
helped you
worked.
reach the market that you wanted to reach, people in the community too.
It worked for me at the time, and it
Yeah.
continues to work for me.
Yeah.
It does, but that's not all I do. I'm an Ivy League graduate. I've been doing this for years. I am on the radio live every single day for 1 hour. People have the chance to know if I'm the real deal or not. People have the chance to know whether I'm just a picture. Of course, it started at just a picture, but there is a lot more of me, so that the picture is the branding. But then, if and when the phone rings, then you have the opportunity to show them your competence, to show them
Yes.
your customer service, and all of that. There was a lot of pushback. Yes, I mean, and I'm sure there is to this day. There was a TikTok circulating about me a little while ago, and there were hundreds of comments. I don't read the comments because I know who I am. Obviously, I don't need to read the comment to know who I am. But I was being told that they say I'm an image for a law firm that doesn't exist. Behind me, there is a man who's funding the law firm. These are the things that I have heard throughout the years.
Right.
So these are the kind of things women will encounter, but that should not stop them. They know who they are. They should keep continuing. We're still in a man's world,
Yeah.
and you have to work 3 times as hard as any man, by the way. And I think it's time, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my goodness, I cannot believe how time has flown.
Well, and I'm waiting for a producer. I haven't heard back from him. So I would love you to tell people a little bit about your firm today and how they can reach you. So where you're located and how they can reach you if they're looking to connect with you.
My office is located in Southfield, Michigan. We primarily do, and we've done it for over 20 years, personal injury with a concentration on car accidents. I can do this in my sleep. However, a few years back, we've added a very strong immigration department, a strong personal bankruptcy department, as well as other things like Social Security and workman's compensation and other matters.
Great.
And the number is 866 Your Rights.
Your Rights.
YOURIGHTS. 866 Your Rights.
Yes. And which is the best website for people to find you?
Yourrights.com with 2 R's in the middle. YOURRIGHTS.com, and you can send any submission.
Okay.
Even
Wonderful.
if it is for mentoring or not for a legal consultation. I see them all.
Yeah.
They
So
get to me.
yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you do hear from all different kinds of cases. So what would be your last tip you'd like to leave women who are listening today?
I just want to tell them it does not matter where they start. It really doesn't. And I'm an example of that. And I and millions of women are an example of that. Yes, you're going to be, you're going to be lost. You're going to be confused. You're going to be discouraged. You're going to be rejected. You're going to be disappointed. But if you do all you can, you teach yourself, you learn from others, you go on the internet and learn, you get the coaching, whether you pay for it or whether you have it free, and you stay the course. If you stay the course, you're going to get there. You will. It's not if, it's only when. That's all it is. It's really that simple. You just must stay the course. That's it. And along the way, you learn along the way. You take the first step, and then you learn on the second step. And so you don't think you need to have the knowledge today. You have, something, you take that first step, and then you learn something, you adjust. So just take that first step, inspirations and information and adjustments are going to reveal themselves every step of the way. Truly, truly, I say to you, if you stay the course, and of course, you're going to feel like giving up for a day or a week or a month. It happens to all of us, myself included. But if you shake yourself up and get back, you stay the course, you'll get there. You will.
Yeah. And
Isn't
so
it? It's that simple.
thank you so much for joining us today. It's been
Thank you.
absolutely wonderful. I know we talked about this years ago when we first met, but everything happens at the right time. I really do believe that.
And I agree with you. And I thank you for what you are doing for women. I really do. On behalf of my two daughters, I
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So for everyone that is watching or listening, I want to invite you to, I have a real short URL, joinsmartwomen.com. You can come there, put in your name and email. You'll start getting our monthly newsletter, which is theme-based. So this month it was all about the mindset of millionaires. And next month we're have a health theme coming up, and you're going to meet Dr. Brianne. And she is a physical therapist, and she does work with pelvic health. So whether this is just happening now or it's because you had children, she has great exercises for women of all ages. So a lot of great free programs too. So especially she has a wonderful one right on our program. So right in the Smart Women's Academy. And you can come into the Academy and access all kinds of courses, like Joumana said, for free. So come to joinsmartwomen.com, share it with your friends, and come join us. And these shows that you're watching, they're on, all the different podcast venues and also on our YouTube channel. And then of course you can watch live today, but a lot of people can't watch live. So I just want to thank everyone for being here today. And until our next show, please go out and live with more purpose, more passion, and prosperity.